In this video, we will discuss two main topics. The first topic would be regarding the inverse functions in relation to trigonometric and hyperbolic functions. And the second part deals with the applications of functions of complex numbers in some problems related to physics. So let us try with the first part. We will start directly with an example. So if we are asked to find out what is the value of cos inverse of 2. Now this is an inverse trigonometric function whose value we are supposed to find out. So in order to do that, let us assume that cos inverse of 2 is just z. So we here assume that the value of cos inverse of 2 is in general going to be a complex quantity. Why is it so? Because if we say that cos inverse of 2 is z, that implies 2 is equal to cos of z. Now this relation is slightly surprising because if z had been a real number, then cos z is always supposed to belong to this particular range of plus or minus 1. But in this case here, cos z is giving us a value equal to 2, which is beyond this particular range. So this z cannot be a real quantity in this case. So we assume that this z should be we should be able to express it in terms of either x plus iy or r e raised to I theta. So long story short, we need to find out the value of z, which will necessarily be the value of cos inverse of 2, which we are trying to find out. So let this cos inverse of 2 be equal to z, which means that cos of z equal to 2. Now at this step, we remember the formula for cos z, which we have already discussed, is equal to e raised to iz plus e raised to minus iz divided by 2. And in this case, this is equal to 2. So let us just reshuffle and write it as e raised to iz plus e raised to minus iz equal to 4. Now we need to find out z ultimately. So we will try to simplify this expression by introducing change of variable. So we are going to put some u to be equal to e raised to I times z. So clearly 1 upon u would be 1 upon e raised to I times z, which is e raised to minus iz. So we get a substitution for both of these quantities appearing here. So e raised to iz is just u and e raised to minus iz is just 1 upon u, and they add up to get a value equal to 4. Now this can be simplified further to get u squared plus 1 divided by u equal to 4, or u squared plus 1 equals 4 times u, or u squared minus 4u plus 1 equal to 0. Now this is a quadratic equation in u, which is solvable by a direct formula which we already know. For an example, let us take the general case ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0. This quadratic equation has two roots given as x equal to minus b plus or minus root of b squared minus 4ac upon 2a. Now this rule can be directly applied here in case of u. We can see that in this case a is the multiplier of u square, which is 1, b, which is the multiplier of u, is minus 4, and c, which is the lone constant, is equal to 1. So the solution of u would be this: minus of minus 4, so minus b, plus or minus root of b squared, which is minus 4 squared, minus 4 times a into c divided by 2 times a. So yes, this formula is directly applied here to get an answer for u. So u equals 4 plus or minus root of, which is 16 minus 4 divided by 2, which is equal to 4 plus or minus. Now this root of 16 minus 4 is just root of 12, which is root of 4 into 3, which is 2 root 3. So here we should write 2 root 3 whole divided by 2. So we can divide this thing by 2 to get 2 plus or minus root 3. So this is nothing but u. But remember, u was introduced by us as a part of change of variable. So u was originally equal to e raised to I z, and we are interested in finding out the value of z. So yes, u is equal to e raised to I z, which is equal to 2 plus or minus root of 3. Remember, this is a purely real number. So since e raised to iz, suppose e raised to iz is some a, then iz would be log of e. So this is a simple rule which we have already used. So we can use it here to get iz equal to log of 2 plus or minus root 3. Now if we rearrange this, we get z equal to, we can divide throughout by I and get an expression as z equal to 1 by I log of 2 plus or minus root 3. This can be generalized if we include the values of theta. How is it done? When we took logarithm of this quantity, we assume that this is real. But if we represent it in a complex plane, this 2 plus 3i would be somewhere here. Sorry, 2 plus root 3 would be somewhere here. And 2 minus root 3 would be somewhere here. So for this value, this theta comes out to be equal to 0 radian. But this is just the principal value of theta. So along with this value, we have to include all other values of theta which are repeated by adding a factor of 2n pi. Right? So this general expression gives all values of theta. So instead of writing it as this, we should correct our expression to get iz equal to log of, so we will follow the convention which we have already used, capital Ln. So this capital L represents that it is a real log, that is a logarithm of a real quantity. So log of 2 plus or minus root 3 plus I times theta, right? This was our original convention. If we recall, just note that if z is r e raised to I theta, log of z is log of r plus I times theta, along with all the values of theta except the principal value. So that is what we are writing here. Iz is log of 2 plus minus root 3 plus I into 2n pi. Hence, so we can replace this by a more general result and get z equal to log of 2 plus or minus root 3 plus I times 2n pi whole divided by I, which is equal to 1 upon I log of 2 plus or minus root 3 plus 2n pi. Now this 1 upon I can be further simplified as 1 upon I into I upon I. So this I into I is I squared, which is minus 1. So we get a minus I. So 1 upon I is same as minus I. If we plan to rewrite this, we write it as minus I log of 2 plus or minus root 3 plus 2n pi. This is the final required expression, which is nothing but the value of z, which was cos inverse of 2. So this was an example where we could find out a value of inverse trigonometric function. Let us try another example where we are asked to find out a value of cos hyperbolic inverse of 1 by 2. Cos hyperbolic inverse of 1 by 2. So we will follow the same route. So let us assume that cos hyperbolic inverse of 1 by 2 is a complex number z, which means that we need to find out value of z in future, and which also implies 1 by 2 equal to cos hyperbolic of z. Now we have to recall the formula for cos hyperbolic of z, which says it is equal to e raised to z plus e raised to minus z whole divided by 2. So e raised to z plus e raised to minus z divided by 2 is half. Now we will put u as e raised to z, which will also get us as 1 upon u equal to e raised to minus z. So this gives us these 2 in the denominators on the both the sides will cancel each other, and we get u plus 1 upon u is equal to 1. Now this can be simplified as u squared plus 1 upon u is equal to 1, or u squared plus 1 is equal to u, or u squared minus u plus 1 equal to 0. So again we have come across a quadratic equation in u, which can also be solved in similar manner. If we identify value of a is 1, value of b is minus 1, value of c is again 1, and u is going to be equal to minus b plus or minus root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So in this case here, u would be equal to minus b, which will be 1, plus or minus root of b squared, which is again 1, minus 4 divided by 2 times 1, which is 2, right, which is equal to 1 plus or minus root of minus 3 divided by 2. Now note here that u itself is going to be a complex quantity. Why is it so? Because this negative of 3 appears under the root sign. So we get 1 plus or minus root 3, and this root of minus 1 gives us the imaginary unit I divided by 2. Fine. So this is equal to 1 by 2 plus or minus root 3 by 2 times I. So this is the value of u. But remember, we have introduced u as per our choice, and u is equal to e raised to z. So we get here e raised to z equal to 1 by 2 plus or minus root 3 by 2 times I. So this also means that z is equal to log of 1 by 2 plus or minus root 3 by 2 times I. Now in order to solve this further, we recall the same formula. Instead of this expression looking in the form of x plus iy, we convert it into r e raised to I theta form. So these are two values, either half plus root 3 by 2i or half minus root 3 by 2i. So in both the cases, we can plot x on the real axis, y on the imaginary axis. So this gives us some point with some theta. Now r is just root of x squared plus y squared. So this r is going to be same in both these cases, because though there is a difference of plus and minus signs, their square is going to be positive. So for both these cases, including both these cases together, the value of r would be root of 1 by 2 squared plus root 3 by 2 squared, which is root of 1 by 4 plus 3 by 4, which is 4 by 4, which is equal to 1. So in this case, the value of r is going to be 1. Now what about theta? We know that theta is tan inverse of y by x. In our case, this y is either plus or minus root 3 by 2. Upon the x is 1 by 2. So these 2 get cancelled and we get tan inverse of plus or minus root 3. So this is equal to plus or minus. Now tan inverse of root 3 is just pi by 3. So along with r, we have a value for theta as well. And in fact, we have two values of theta. So the original complex number, which was mentioned here as z equal to log of half plus or minus root 3i, can now be written as z equal to log of, instead of this x plus iy form, let us introduce r e raised to I theta form. So we get log of 1 e raised to I, theta is plus or minus pi by 3 plus 2n pi. So this 2n pi corresponds to all other values of theta except this principal value of theta. Now log 1 is simply 0 plus log and e get cancelled with each other, and we get it as I plus or minus pi by 3 plus 2n pi. Yes, so z, which was equal to cos hyperbolic inverse of 1 by 2, has got a value equal to I times plus or minus pi by 3 plus 2n pi. So this is an example where we have discussed how to determine the values of inverse hyperbolic functions. Now let us look at two simple examples where we can apply this knowledge of complex numbers to solve some problems in physics in a much simpler way. So let us clear the canvas, and as an example, let us consider a problem of series LCR circuit. Series LCR circuit, where we have three components: resistance, capacitor, and an inductor, connected in series with an AC source. So this gives an alternating current. So let us say current flowing through the circuit is I, and since the current is alternating or AC, let this I be equal to I0 sine of omega t. So this is a sinusoidally oscillating current, which is commonly called as alternating current. Suppose V is the voltage of the source. Now this voltage gets divided across three components, namely VR, VL and VC. and these three components add up to get the total voltage V. Now we remember from the basics of electricity that this VR is just I times R. This is due to Ohm's law. Now this VL is just L times di by dt, which is due to Lenz's law. And in case of capacitor, we know the fact that charge across capacitor is just C times V, where C is the capacitance of the capacitor and V is the voltage applied across the capacitor. Now by definition, we know that current is rate of current is the rate of flow of charge with respect to t. So in order to introduce the quantity I, we will differentiate this with respect to t. Remember that C is a constant, so it is kept as it is, and we have dVc by dt. Now this dq by dt is nothing but I, so we have C dVc by dt. Let us just box these two values. Now here this dVc is just I by C dt. So we are rearranging the terms on both sides. We can integrate this to get an expression for Vc, which is equal to 1 upon C integral I dt. Now this I cannot be taken outside because it is not a constant, but it is a sinusoidally varying current I0 sin omega t. Now this can be integrated to get a value 1 upon C times I0 sin omega t. Now we know that this is going to be I0 by C, and integration of sine is minus cos omega t upon omega. Yes. So Vc is equal to minus I0 by omega C cos omega t. This is the last required expression. Now we have with us the values of Vc, the value of VR, and the value of VL. Okay, we need to find out the value of VL. Further, VL is equal to L di by dt. So we get d by dt of I0 sin omega t, which is L I0 omega cos omega t. Fine. Now we have all three values. VL, which is just L di by dt, is L I0 omega cos omega t. Vc, which is equal to, in this case, minus I0 by C omega cos omega t, and VR, which was just equal to I times R, which is I0 R sin omega t. Now these three add up to be equal to V. So the total voltage V is the sum of these three complicated quantities, and the overall problem becomes difficult to treat mathematically. So instead of this method, we can introduce a much more simpler way, and we will assume the I to be equal to I0 e raised to I omega t. Earlier we had this expression as I0 sine omega t, right? Now we are introducing the complex notation, so we can get the information that e raised to I theta is cos theta plus I sin theta. So this is the real part and this is the imaginary part of the expression, and we see that this imaginary part is nothing but the current. So we just take it to be granted that we are going to take the value of current as expressed in this manner, and the part which is imaginary from this expression is going to represent the current of our physical situation. Now if we take these three values, then we will get VR to be equal to IR as usual, which is I0 e raised to I omega t. We see VL equal to L di by dt. So it is L into d by dt of I0 e raised to I omega t, which is equal to I0 L omega e raised to I omega t, because I0 is constant, so it is as it is. E raised to I omega t differentiated gives us e raised to I omega t into omega, and Vc would be equal to, just the same rule is to be followed. Vc is this 1 by c integral I dt. So it is 1 by c integral I0 e raised to I omega t dt. Now this is just I0 upon c omega e raised to I omega t. Correct. Now V is the sum of these three values, from which R here. So this is again I. So this is just IR. This is again I. So it is I L omega, and this is again I. So it is I upon C omega. So this V is equal to I R plus, there are some corrections here. Along with this omega, we get a multiplier I. Fine. This is IR plus I L omega I plus I by C omega I, which is equal to, I can be taken common. Now what remains is R plus L omega I minus 1 by C omega times I. Now here we have replaced this 1 upon I by term minus I, as was done in the previous case. So this is just equal to I times R plus, I can be taken common, L omega minus 1 upon C omega. Now this expression looks very familiar with the Ohm's law, but instead of the resistance value R, now we have a complicated expression, and this expression is called as, so instead of R, let us write it as Z. Now do not confuse this Z with the complex number Z. This Z is called as the impedance of the circuit, and this Z is equal to R plus I times omega L minus 1 upon omega C. Now in order to make it a physically measurable quantity, which is supposed to be real always, we take modulus of it, which gives us the magnitude of Z, as the root of real part squared plus imaginary part squared. So mod z is r squared plus omega L minus 1 by omega c bracket squared. This gives us an expression for the modulus of total impedance of a series LCR circuit. Series LCR circuit. We can also learn an example from mechanics. Suppose there is a particle which is performing motion in 2D, and 2D motion is always represented on xy plane, and we recall the fact that a complex number can also be represented on an xy plane. So there is something in common. So let us consider a particle where x is a function of t, y is a function of t. So both x and y coordinates of the particle change with respect to time t, and hence the z, which can be defined as a combination of x and y, is also going to be a function of t. Now suppose this z is represented by using complex number notation. So let us say that z is equal to this quantity. So z minus 1 comes out to be equal to 3 e raised to 2it. Remember that z is a function of t. So modulus of this is just 3. So since this is in the form r is to I theta, r is nothing but the modulus of this quantity. So mod of z minus 1 is 3, and note that it is a constant. Now we know that this z minus 1 is the distance between z and 1, and this distance is a constant. Though z is a function of t, the distance between z and point 1 is a constant. What does that mean? That the distance between these 2 points is fixed. So a particle might be performing a motion where it is traversing a trajectory by keeping a distance constant from a given point. So it is nothing but motion traversing a circular path. Now we can fix the coordinates as discussed here. Suppose we get x and y, and remember that radius is equal to 3 units, and the center of the circle is point 1, and 1 is a real point, so it is going to be on the x-axis. So 1 2 3 4 minus 1 minus 2 minus 3, let us say. So this is the center, and we can count 3 units on both the sides. So 1 2 3 1 2 3. Similarly we can count upwards 1 2 3 and downwards 1 2 3, and can draw a circle. This is the point which is acting as the center, and this is the track or trajectory traversed by the particle, whose equation of motion is represented in complex notation as z equal to 1 plus 3 e raised to 2it. Now we can also check for the velocity. Since velocity is rate of change of position as a function of time, we can differentiate this. Derivative of 1 is 0 plus 3 e raised to 2it into 2I, which is 6I e raised to 2it. So this is velocity. Now what is its magnitude? The magnitude is just 6 units. So 6 units per second. We can go on doing this. So these were only two examples where we can use complex numbers to study or to solve some problems in physics. Thank you.